Do you mind if I say a few words? Thank you.
A man was thrown out of his local cinema multiplex for eating the wrong food. Not rustly, loud and annoying sweets, not cheesy, smelly, stinky crisps, nor noisy, slurpy drinks, but food he bought elsewhere. Outraged he was to have his bag searched and the contraband discovered, but felt worse when he was asked to hand it over. The 8 packets of M&Ms, a multi-pack of crisps, a big bag of sweets and 2 cherry colas for him and his mate. The rest of the audience can count their blessings that he left, rather than give up the sweetmeats, as they'd have had trouble hearing the film over that lot. The man took a Viking feast to the movies. Just how hungry are you? People in Biafra wouldn't get that much to sit through a film. Do you think you could possibly sit still for 2 hours without stuffing your face, like it's your last meal? You're not a cow. Stop grazing. So he goes outside and he starts up a one-man street protest, hands out price comparison charts of what crisps cost in the cinema and the corner shop, which would be a fair comparison if you could watch James Bond at the newsagents, but you can't. You also can't go into the newsagents without a gang of hoolies asking you to get some cider so they can get steamed on the bench outside the shopping arcade. But that'll be illegal soon if the government gets its way. Drinking alcohol in public will become a crime, punishable by law. So as soon as the police solve the murders and the rapes and the assaults and the burglary, they'll get right on it. Give them an ASBO. It's a badge of pride that says, I'm hard. That'll teach them. They should drink cola instead. And you know what goes well with that? 8 packets of M&Ms, a multi-pack of crisps, a big bag of sweets, and 2 tickets for the stalls, please, mister. I'm not making that list up. That guy actually bought all of that stuff to see a film. One film. Not an all-like film-a-thon. Just the one.
Was it?
Yes.
8 packs of big M&Ms, or just
I'm glad you asked.
8 regular size? Because, you know,
that's
normally...
a very important question.
When you go to the theatre, you get a big... one, don't you?
Preparing for a visit to the movies, Adam Glennon sensibly decided to stock up with his own supply of snacks rather than pay exorbitant cinema prices. But after buying a ticket to watch the sci-fi thriller... everybody say sci-fi thriller 10 times really fast. Go!
Sci-fi thriller.
Sci-fi thriller,
stop,
sci-fi thriller,
stop. When he Cloverfield, is that any good? Cloverfield.
It makes your eyes hurt.
Oh, good. Mr. Glennon was approached in the foyer by a security guard demanding to know what was in the plastic bag. When he searched it, he found sweets, drinks and cola inside. The guard ordered Mr. Glennon to hand over the bag and its contents. This is in the Daily Mail, and there's a picture of him with his arms folded, looking aggrieved. Help, I'm being abused, he's saying. He refused to hand over the contents, and was then told he would not be allowed in to see the film with food bought elsewhere, so he had to leave. Outraged at his treatment at Cineworld. I like Cineworld. This is in Stockport. Mr. Glennon, a 26-year-old postman, held a one-man protest outside the cinema, giving away free sweets and his own price comparison leaflets. He held a one-man protest outside the cinema, giving out free sweets. Now, that's the sort of stuff that could get you arrested. Recalling the encounter with the guard, he said, he was searching like it was a copper, looking for a gun. I was going blood red because I couldn't believe it. I've always taken in food and I've never had a problem. Money is tight at the moment and I begrudge paying the prices they charge. He can't be the postie that delivers over my way, because he's got my, I assume, anyway, somebody's got it, my blooming iPod. Other MP3 players are available. I bought it and it never arrived.
Maybe he listens to it while he delivers to you, just to tease you.
Yeah, dropping rubber bands on the pavement as he goes. Mind you, I haven't seen that lately. A year or so ago, everywhere you went, you were on a cushion of rubber in the streets of London, because posties who had their mail sorted and then rubber bandised. You remember the rubber bandised? I think it was a hit from the Gap Band. Oh, they were great. No, that was the Rubber Band Man by... Yeah.
Wasn't there a rubber ball one as well?
No, that was a bouncing ball.
Was it? I thought it was like a rubber ball.
Come bouncing back to you. Yeah.
No, they're all outside my flat now.
Really? That's nice. But we're talking about me.
You.
Recalling the encounter with his guard, he said he was searching like he was a copper. I've read that bit. Mr. Glennon bought his snacks from a discount store near the cinema with his friend Darren. He paid £5 to get 8 packs of M&Ms, 8, a multi-pack of crisps, a mixture of sweets, and 2 bottles of cherry cola. It's the cornerstone to any nutritious breakfast.
You did pretty good for £5 there.
If he'd bought them at the cinema, 2 tubes of Pringles alone would have set him back £4.80, and he'd have paid £6.10 for 2 large drinks. Cineworld sells large packs of M&Ms for $2.60 a pack. People, listen to me closely. You do not need to eat while you're at the cinema. You are not that hungry. I'm going to buy you 2 mirrors. One you place behind you, and one you hold in your hand to check out the size of your giant wobbly bottoms. Stop eating all this stuff. Cineworld said it searches bags in case recording equipment is being smuggled in, and, if food is discovered, will enforce its no-food policy. Quite right, too. As spokesman Luke said, Cineworld terms and conditions outline that all food consumed on the premises must be purchased at one of our concessions, which is in line with most cinema chain policies. It's in line with the policies of anybody who runs any kind of business anywhere. If you sell food in a place, you can't buy your food outside and then go and eat it in there. I mean, that's just daft. Who would think such a thing is possible? I mean, when I go to the few occasions that I can drum up the interest to go, I might take a bottle of water, but that's it. I think you're allowed a bottle of water anywhere. Am I right? In an art gallery, in a museum. I've even walked into a restaurant and put it on the table. If I buy or I have some tap water, fair enough. So you're allowed water, but not anything else. I mean, I can't buy a sandwich at the corner shop and then walk into a restaurant and sit down and eat it, can I?
I have done that in the pub before.
In a pub, yes.
But sneakily,
yes, that's right.
Bent down on the table.
Correct. You know you're doing wrong. Yeah, and if they ask you to leave, well, it's a fair cop, Governor.
Mm-hmm.
You're too loud, by the way. Turn yourself down.
Yes, sir.
The spokesman for Cineworld says, we do offer a full refund if a customer chooses to leave. While Mr. Glennon did receive a refund, he remains furious at the cinema's policy. I will be making my opinions heard because the prices they charge are not fair and the ban is pathetic, he said. Well, you're quite at liberty to go somewhere else, mate. An employee at Sweet Sensation, the confectionery shop opposite Cineworld, says the cinema's crackdown started this month. We've had people get this. He said we've had people coming in and buying sweets to take in. They've been refused and come back asking for their money back. But we can't give refunds on sweets. No, that's right. Nor prescription drugs, by the way. Just thought I might mention that in case. This bloke's giving me a headache. And he's looking so like... He's furrowed his brow for the photograph that they've taken. And he looks like... Oh, woe is me. Oh, silly man. I mean, to get that concerned about it, and to take that amount of food in the first place... You don't have enough time to eat all that food during the course of one film.
I used to take fish and chips into my local cinema.
Oh, well, you should stop speaking because you're digging yourself in ever deeper with every word you say. That's awful.
No, it was a friend and me.
You're still too loud.
But there was no one else in the cinema quite often, so...
I don't care.
They didn't mind if we just took in...
No, wrong.
But it was just us. There was no one else to complain.
Yeah, but the smell will linger longer.
It was the last showing at night.
I bet you take your shoes off in there as well. Awful. No, just don't do it. If people are selling food in a place, then respect that, or just don't go. Wait till it comes around on DVD. You'll be able to buy it on Blu-ray. Not HD DVD, which, as I've previously explained, is about the worst name for any gadget I've ever heard in my life. HD DVD. It's almost impossible to say. Blu-ray, you virtually hear a choir of angels singing as you say it. Blu-ray. Doesn't it make you want to rush out and buy one? I don't care what it is. I want one. HD DVD sounds like something you go to the clinic with.
Blu-ray sounds like a fish, though.
Hey, did you see the snakehead fish that they've just found in this country? It grows to 4 feet long and eats people. That's actually true. It's got razor-sharp teeth. It eats anything in its way, up to and including killing people. And if it gets a hold in these waters around here, well then, lunch is off the menu. Where lunch? People are freaking out in the fish catching community because apparently it's normally found around China, and they're suggesting that maybe someone got it as a pet. You might as well have a landmine as a pet, but you know what people will buy. And they thought that they maybe released it into the wild, but if it starts breeding, well, I mean, if it starts breeding with a pit bull terrier, for instance, then we're all in trouble. This is LBC 97.3. I'm Nick Abbott. We're looking forward to the Brits tomorrow, by the way. Ozzy Osbourne is going to get naked. He's going to get naked and present the Brits.
What?
Yes. And we'll be having a detailed description of that as we go live to the Brits on this show tomorrow. But more immediately than that, it's 7:44. LBC Travel with Alan Joyce.
Thanks, Nick.
I really like you. Do you like me?
Oh, like is too mild a word. Wimbledon. Hello, Owen.
Oh, Nick, my favourite perhaps sarcastic presenter of all time. You mentioned a couple of things. Just before I mentioned the cinema and what I used to take in there.
Yeah.
You mentioned something. What was this animal that has escaped from the Japanese fishing waters?
It's called a snake. Oh, I should have clipped this out, I suppose, but I don't think anybody would be interested. It's called a snakehead fish or something like that. It grows to 4 feet long and
fascinating.
Eats. You accuse me of sarcasm. No, it is fascinating.
No, I am.
That's right. Nothing more fascinating than fishing. Yeah.
I am fascinated. I was thinking if you were sort of to cross perhaps a sperm whale and a crocodile.
Yeah.
You mentioned the pit bull. That would give the Japanese whalers a hell of a scare.
Well, that's right. Yeah, it would even the odds. Yeah.
They deserve it anyway. I turned on the radio and to my favourite show, and guess what? No sarcasm intended there. And I heard about food and stuff being brought into the cinema, and when I think of what I used to bring into the cinema to watch films, it was clearly I was not interested in the film. I mean,
yeah, exactly. So what was it?
Well,
what's the recipe today, Owen?
Well, now I'm between 50 and death, but then 20 years ago I used to bring in Stella,
Stella.
Crates of beer, and I'd be drinking this beer purely for effect. I mean,
right.
Madness. Complete madness.
Effect? Its effect on your viewing pleasure or on other people's impression of you?
No, it was purely essential that I had something to change the way I felt. And before that, when I was young, I used to go to the cinema. It was essential to get an orange juice, a hot dog, some popcorn. I mean, I wasn't hungry, but it was essential to get all these things.
Why, though? I don't understand this. There isn't any other form of entertainment where you sit down for 2 hours in amongst an audience of people and just eat your face off. You don't do that at the theatre or the ballet or the opera or a football. You don't do it at a football match or.
Why? Why should we do it? I mean,
yes, precisely.
Madness.
Well,
madness.
Why do you do it?
Because we're encouraged to do it, and then we become programmed, I suppose. I mean, there was nothing better than drinking this orange juice that wasn't orange juice. Yeah. I can't remember. Kia Ora.
Yeah, great adverts.
And of course there were adverts on the big screen that told you to eat these ice creams that were made from all kinds of nefarious.
Yeah. No cream involved. Yeah.
Yes, dreadful. But I used to eat it.
Well, the thing with ice cream is, if when it's melted, it retains the same shape as when it's frozen, don't eat it.
Well, I mean, the industrial manufacture of margarine is the same for that as that Mr. Whippy ice cream.
Well, yeah, and also I think the what's in actual margarine shares more or less the same chemical constituent as the tub it comes in. I think that's true.
Well, yes. I mean, all it is that you just boil it under pressure. It's a fatty acid. You boil it under pressure. You bubble hydrogen gas through it, and you add salt and colouring, and you get margarine, and you add sugar
so
and
yummy.
colouring and flavouring, and you get ice cream.
Yeah, my mouth's watering just at the very thought of it.
Wonderful, and that was very important to eat.
This is important, Owen. Please, people, stop taking food into the cinema. Just sit there and shut up.
Ask what your producer used to take into the cinema. You added salt and vinegar to it. But
yeah, fish and chips. I've never heard that in my life.
It can't, but it can't be as bad as taking beer into the cinema. I mean,
fish and chips will smell the whole place out. Beer, not so much.
No, well, that's true. But I mean, there's anything. I mean, why is it so important to eat?
I've got no idea. I've never done that. This is one of the reasons I don't go to the cinema anymore. Apart from it costs, 50 quid.
I've taken
Other people are there, and people, as we've come to find out through having lived this long, people are the problem. They're not the solution.
Ah, yes. Well, there's no doubt about that. Although, Leicester Square, I went to Leicester Square. I decided, a girlfriend and I, we decided to go to the cinema. Being the gentleman that I am, this is quite a number of years ago, I decided to pay for both of us. And I wish I hadn't. It cleaned me out.
Try it these days, Owen. Take a checkbook. Thanks a lot, mate.
20 years ago. Cheers, Nick.
0845 6060 973. Can you believe how bad the Empire cinema in Leicester Square looks? You know, because they had this really nice, at the front of the building, I don't know when it was built, but it has this nice arch with some sort of relief carvings on the inside, and it looks quite pleasant. And they put the scaffolding up for the longest time, and you thought, oh wow, they're really going to make something of it, because it's got a lot of competition. Because the Odeon Leicester Square looks fantastic, the big black thing with with the neon lights on it. It looks like an installation from afar. Looks great. And then the building next to it also looks quite good, lit up at night. The north end of the square, though, rubbish. And so when the scaffolding came off the Empire, I thought, oh, right, is that it? It looks terrible. I don't know how much money they spent on it, but they should get it back. That is awful. It looks like a project halfway through. They've got this brown sign at the front. I don't like brown. Sawbridgeworth. Hello, Vic.
Hi there.
Vic.
Cinemas.
Yeah.
I'm retired of that age. I go and I get this an enormous discount of 20p, I think it is.
Oh, yeah.
And yet then the next step, I go and buy I may buy a drink there. I wouldn't buy anything else. I certainly wouldn't buy popcorn.
No, see, popcorn, I have a real problem with popcorn. It's noisy, and it lasts forever. And it's just this constant, this sort of scrabbling around in the cardboard carton. It's the constant rustle, and it just drives you out of your mind.
Yeah, but the next rip-off is that you go to the counter and get a drink, and I'll guarantee, when you order that drink, if you don't say anything, they will half-fill it with ice. That's the first thing they'll do. Mm-hmm. So you've ended up with half of what you actually ordered anyway.
Yeah.
So
mind you, you're better off. You're better off with ice though, than a bucket of that sticky, syrupy sludge.
No, you don't. It's already cooled. When you get those drinks, they're already cooled. They don't need ice in them. They're already cooled. They do it just for money's sake.
Right, but what I'm saying is, Vic, you're better off drinking melted ice juice than the.
I don't mind a 7-Up or a Fanta, one of those fizzy drinks. That suits me, but...
I'm sorry, Vic, speak up. You're getting Fanta.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't mind a drink like that.
That's a...
The thing is, I don't like being ripped off for it, though, They should say to you, do you want ice in it?
Right.
Not just do it, and that's it, and give you, and charge you a whacking £2, nearly £3 for a medium-sized carton.
Yeah, calm down, Vic. You'll have a heart attack. It's only ice.
Okay, anyway.
Right, thanks a lot, mate. Ta-da. Yeah, well, on tomorrow's show, we'll be playing Derek and Clive live in full. We'll put our feet up, have a cigar. Isn't that right, Raj? You bring it in, and we'll stick it on, all right?
Will you bring the popcorn?
No popcorn allowed. Staines. Hello, Sarah.
Hello?
Sarah.
Yes. You've made me smile,
Well, you got to have a laugh, ain't ya?
especially on the way home from work. I thought my postman had a personal vendetta with the elastic bands, but I'm so happy to hear it's somebody else as well.
They're everywhere.
Pink and red ones, a pinky colour.
Yellow and green and blue, everyone.
Most of them, yeah.
Yeah. I know. I mean, how difficult is it to just take the rubber band off the envelopes and put it in your pocket? Recycle. Conserve.
How much money are Royal Mail wasting on the amount of elastic bands they give me?
Yeah. I feel your pain. Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. The price of the postage stamp is going up daily.
Is it?
Well, the amount of elastic bands they're giving me, it is.
Right. What do you do with them?
Use them.
You do what?
Use them.
For what?
I wouldn't like to say anything.
Okay. Well, you've left my mind a-racing.
That's what I like to do. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Sarah. Ta-da.
Bye-bye.
Huh. I can think of two. Oh, no, there's 3 uses. 4. I'm stuck on 4. You got any, Raj? Why don't you draw us a diagram, and then we'll post them out to anyone who's interested. It'll never get there, mind you, because I'm sure that the postie is sorting through and just selecting what he wants and giving you any envelope with a window gets through, no problem at all. Anything that looks like it's got something inside, well, you'll be lucky. 97.3 FM. This is LBC.
And I can't stand him.
So when Prince Charles goes to the cinema, I mean, he's on the red carpet. Does he actually... Because you know a lot of the stars who go on the carpet in the Leicester Square and they do the glad-handing thing and then they disappear into the cinema, they don't actually sit and watch the film. They just go out the back way and they're off. So they go in looking like they're going to sit and watch it, but they've done this before in, Toronto and LA and then Paris and Venice, and how many times can you see a film that you were acting in? I mean, it just must be so dull. So they don't actually watch the film, they scarper.
Really?
It's just it's a direct line from the red carpet at the front to the exit at the back, and they're off.
What, even if it's the premiere?
I am very surprised if any of them actually sit around to watch it, because it's not a premiere for London. They'll have had the same thing, half a dozen times all around the world. Because this is part of the job these days, to go and, glad hand the public, and then they have to sit in a nice suite at the Dorchester or wherever, and, every 10 minutes you're answering the same stupid questions from a bunch of interviewers who know they've only got 10 minutes with you, and so they'll all ask the same questions.
I think when Tom Hanks had his premiere for his last film, he went in, sat down for about 10 minutes.
Yeah.
Probably annoyed people by having some popcorn or something, and then just went home.
Well, maybe he was discovered bringing in his own sweets. Yeah, I'm sorry, mate. You're out.
Celebs don't make enough money to afford the prices there.
But I wonder if the royal family did that, because, they're out, as the nice man on the news said. Was it a man or a woman? I don't know. I'm not sexist.
It was a woman.
It's just news to me. They were out there on the red carpet, but would they actually go in and sit down and watch a film, being a royal personage?
I think they might have, because how often can they go to the cinema and just sit down unhassled?
Well, yeah, but...
if you saw them down Clapham High Street Cinema, yeah.
Well, that's the other thing. I mean, you wouldn't want to be sitting behind him, because the light shining off his bald pate would be dazzling. You wouldn't be able to see a thing. Neither would you be allowed to sit anywhere near him, you wouldn't think. There'd be a donut of security people around him. You wouldn't be able to get anywhere near. So they'd take up, for one person, they'd take up 9 seats. 3 at front, 1 on each side, and 3 at the back. Is that 9?
No.
They'd be in their own...
8.
8, and the one in the middle that he's sitting in.
They'd be in their own box, surely.
There are no boxes in cinemas anymore.
No?
I don't believe so. No, you can't.
They might erect
I guess
one just
not.
specially.
Oh, yeah, right.
I'm thinking of theatres, aren't I?
Stupid boy. New Whore, Henry.
Hi there, Nick.
Hey, Henry.
How are you?
I am all right, mate.
I was just going to speak to you about when I worked for the post office. This was a few years ago when I was on my uppers. I did like about a week over the Christmas period.
Oh, yeah.
Wow, and I thought, if I had that contract for them rubber bands, they had boxes of them about the size of tea chests.
Really?
Rubber bands all over the place.
They are Rubber Band Man.
Yeah, I couldn't believe it. And one night I had to do some, like, sorting, and, you know, you could see Christmas cards. I found one for Jim Nick Davidson.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, but I didn't rip it up. I just filed it. But all that rubber band stuff, what I do is I pick them all up and I put them in the post box.
That's an interesting idea, yeah. I mean, it seems very wasteful to me. I mean, rubber doesn't grow on trees. But isn't that awful? I mean, they just take them off the bundles and then they drop them on the ground. What kind of a mentality is that? I'll tell you, it's the same kind of mentality who drags like a devil dog around on a piece of string and allows it to leave its doggy product right there on the pavement. Same people.
That's not a nice thing to do, is it?
No, it isn't. And if I had my way, every dog in the land would be chipped and
DNA'd.
Yeah, exactly. And so whenever you see some...
You just scoop up a little bit and say,
a puppy present on the pavement,
foo-foo,
then you'd be able to get right round there and put the owner down. Or have I gone too far?
Or everyone down.
Yeah.
Hey, and the other...
I want to blast off and nuke the entire site from space. It's the only way we can be sure.
The other thing they do is, you know when they put that card to your door saying, oh, you weren't in.
Yeah, this is usually when you're in, and they just can't be bothered to, stand around and wait.
They don't ring the bell.
No, they don't.
And I know people that have seen it come through the door, and they chase the bloke down.
I suspect... Well, you worked at the post office, perhaps you know. I suspect that they can't be bothered to take... Hang on a minute. Well, I'm not blaming you. Very sensitive.
You carry on.
Very sensitive. Don't go postal on me, Henry.
I'll try not to.
Right, okay. I'll match you for firepower. I suspect that they don't carry parcels around on a daily basis because they just can't be bothered. But they do carry around the little cards. And so rather than carry around a lot of parcels, they just carry around the card and say, oh, well, we came, but you weren't here. And which means that they don't have to carry a lot of heavy stuff around.
I'll tell you exactly what they do. They're having a cup of tea, they write them all out, and then through the door and
job
they're
done.
Off before you can catch them.
Yeah.
It's shocking.
Just as I suspected. All right, well, thanks for the inside scoop, Henry.
Hey, and you know those red rubber bands? They're supposed to be biodegradable.
Oh, yeah.
But I still stuck them in the letterboxes anyway.
Right, that'll teach them.
Yeah, that'll learn them, won't it?
Yeah, all right. Thanks for fighting the good fight, Henry.
Ta-da, mate.
Cheers, mate. Ta-da. Speaking of which, by the way, there was a clamping battle in, I think it was Southend. This is great. It will go down in motoring folklore as the Great Southend Standoff, the day when the humble car owner finally defeated the mighty clamper, and everyone's sitting on the edge of their seats. Like most great battles, it started just after dawn when the team of parking control officers emerged through the fog at a block of flats on the outskirts of Southend in Essex, which really is an awful place, isn't it? Be honest, Southend is terrible.
I've never been, but it's on my places to go.
Right, we'll strike it off immediately.
Consider it done.
Within minutes, they had clamped 16 cars at the Vision development. Oh, that sounds lovely. All they had to do was sit back and collect the £205 payments. This is each. Similar scenes are played out thousands of times a day across Britain and culminate with an angry motorist paying up. But on Friday, the residents of Southend refused to back down. Instead of paying up, they gave the clampers a taste of their own medicine. Motorists whose cars were still free barricaded the entrance to the car park, while friends and family were called to provide backup. The clampers and their van were trapped, and the standoff began. Dave Smith, 48, one of the blockade's organisers, found that his son's Ford Fiesta was among those clamped vehicles. I came into the car park and saw all these vehicles clamped. There were 3 women crying their eyes out. The clampers were just laughing. Isn't that awful? There are two big blokes with shaven heads, all dressed in black, he said. These mini Hitlers were demanding £205 off us for parking in spaces that we've already paid for. It was a disgusting. They were using bully boy tactics, and there was no way that they were going to get the money. Lisa Stiles had little choice but to pay a £125 release fee, a specially reduced rate, as she had an important hospital appointment. I didn't have any cash, so they told me to get my credit card, she said. But the other residents stood firm, calling their bosses to explain that they probably wouldn't be in that day. People were making cups of tea for each other, and my wife went and made sandwiches for us all to keep us going. It's like the Dunkirk spirit. He said it was a great atmosphere. It was a strange way to meet the neighbours, but we were sticking together. Finally, after more than 4 hours, the Clampers admitted defeat. Amid scenes of jubilation, probably not seen locally since the promotion of Southend United Football Club, the Clampers removed the car's anchors. The barricade was removed, and the Clampers were freed. We all gave them a cheer and sent them on their way, Mr. Smith said. Waving, like that they were waving. Here, have that finger. Isn't that great? So, you know, if you do stand up for yourself, and you can get the support of the good, right-thinking people on your side, then the impossible can be achieved. I'm not sure about the mini Hitlers part. Is that going a bit too far? I mean, they're only doing their job. I mean, it was like Christmas and birthdays all at once for these people. So perhaps mini Hitlers is going a step too far. Or not. Ah, screw it. 8:15. LBC Travel with Will Gowing.
Thank you very much.
Affirmative.
There is this story, speaking of cars, by the way, about Porsche. People get very aggravated when you don't pronounce it in the correct manner. But it's only some cars you're supposed to bend over backwards to get your tongue around. I know that was not quite the right imagery, but you know what I mean. Do you know what I mean? Like Mercedes, I'm sure it's not pronounced Mercedes by Germans. This is probably Mercedes, something like that. But we don't bother with that. We just say Mercedes. But you say Porsche, and people go, oh, it's not Porsche, it's Porsche. In much the same way as people get bent out of shape if you pronounce French names wrong. Like, if I said, I'm going to go to Lyons, they say, oh, don't be so common, it's Lyon. And then you'll ask, oh, right, well, what's the capital of France then? And they'll say, Paris. No, it's Paris. So we choose some words that we insist on trying to get our Anglo tongue around, and others we just can't be bothered. What are you two gossiping about?
Trying to get the next ad break written up for you.
Yeah. Be
it's
quiet.
For your benefit.
Oh, I see. So, Porsche are taking Ken Livingstone to court. They haven't got a hope in hell, have they, really? I mean, this entire thing is silly. Ken Livingstone facing a full-scale legal action to challenge plans for a £25 a day congestion charge for gas guzzlers. Porsche has written to the mayor, claiming his new scheme unveiled last week is unjust. Oh, boo-hoo. And says he must axe it or face judicial review. Now, I'm speaking as somebody who thinks it is unjust. I'm speaking as somebody who hasn't got a Porsche. But I'd like to have, you know, if I ever make a success of myself, I'd like to think that I could maybe have one day. Or a car with an engine that's bigger than a sewing machine, you know. I mean, my iPod's got a bigger engine than my car does at the moment. And £25 a day to come into London, well, that's just daft. And here's why it's daft. If he'd just said everybody has to pay £8, or the more expensive, the more polluting vehicles have to pay 25, and that's the end of it, that would have made sense. That would be logical. Because London is a very polluted city, and you can tell how bad it is when you, in the summertime, get up high, and you can see this brown layer over London. And as I've previously explained, I don't like brown. It's vile. And so that would make sense if you're trying to reduce pollution. But he didn't stop there. he almost dug himself a hole and dived straight into it by saying that the less polluting cars can get in free. Not £8. They can get in for nothing. Which doesn't make any sense at all, because it's not chalk and cheese with this. Like a Porsche doesn't produce 1 million times more CO2 than a Fiat Panda. It's just a little bit more in the great scheme of things. And so to allow everybody with a smaller car to come in for nothing will mean, well, it's just blooming obvious what it'll mean. It'll mean the roads will be clogged up with lots of people in their tiny, silly little cars, producing a giant amount more CO2 than it would be produced by a fewer, larger cars. I mean, that's just common sense, isn't it? So it makes you wonder why he's done this. Unless it's just in order to garner votes. It's like I said the other day, people who drive, Rolls-Royces and Maybachs and all these cars with the giant engines, they're not going to vote for Ken. Obviously not, are they? They're going to be in Boris's pocket. So he doesn't mind peeing them off. It's all the little people's votes that he wants to gather in, which means that it would make sense to give them all, a free rein of the roads. So it's not about the CO2, obviously, because if it is, then it's a very flawed policy. It doesn't make any sense at all. Anyway, this is about the legal case that they're bringing. Paul Shah says that the increase, a 3,000% increase for the worst hit drivers, is disproportionate and will do almost nothing to achieve Mr. Livingston's stated aim of decreasing vehicle emissions. Porsche spoke... See, if you say it too much, it just becomes irritating. I'm just going to say Porsche, and that's it.
Porsche sounds like it should be some posh person's daughter.
Exactly. It would be Porsche Geldof.
And she's got a pony.
A Porsche spokesman said, in the run-up to a hotly contested mayoral election, the proposal appears motivated by politics rather than sensible policy making. I'd have to say that that's absolutely right. It certainly makes sense to me. It doesn't make any sense to give free rein to people with so-called lightly polluting vehicles. They're not running on electricity. The other thing is, of course, the people who manufacture electric cars, those hideous things that look like wheelchairs with roofs, they're screwed because no one's going to buy them anymore. I mean, nobody actually wants to sit in one of those things because you look like a fool, but they were the only things that could come in for free. Now, if you're going to make any old car free, then the sales of those things will dry up almost instantly. So this doesn't make any sense at all. It seems like policy that was written on the back of a fag packet during lunch. If the review gets the go-ahead, Porsche will challenge Transport for London's right to launch the new charge. This is due to start in October, if Livingston's re-elected. Porsche said it will seek a quashing order to overturn the charge, which is bizarre, and I'll come to that in a minute. The firm's global chief executive said, I recognise that a fair deal for Porsche owners is unlikely to be a rallying cry that will see millions marching on the streets of London. Yes. But the Mayor's plans to increase the congestion charge by about 3,000% on some car owners will affect all Londoners directly or indirectly. Mr. Livingston said today that the threatened legal action would be a PR disaster for Porsche. He said that Londoners should decide whether to introduce a £25 charge on the 1st of May, either by voting for him or Sean? What is it? S-I-A-N. Sean. Either by voting for Ken or Sean, or object to it by voting for Boris or Brian. Ken Livingston says that the idea that a German businessman should intervene to prevent Londoners making that choice, I think, is pretty obscene. It does seem bizarre, doesn't it? I mean, it's really got nothing to do with him. You'd think with all the know-how at their disposal, they're the world's most profitable car company. Did you know that? Porsche. No one makes more money per car than they do. Isn't that incredible? And with all the money at their disposal, you'd think that they'd be able to get a small car like that to run more economically and kinder to the environment. I mean, it's not like it's a seven-seater car. They're tiny. Why do they produce so much pollution?
Because it's still a big engine for a small car.
Right. Well, they're doing great things with engines these days. Maybe I should think
Well, trouble
about
is
it.
you put all these, things on an engine to cut down on pollution. You cut down on performance.
Right.
Which is not what people buy a Porsche for.
No. But then, equally, driving around London, you get from, the 0 to 60 figure is a moot. You get, like, 0 to 10 in 1 second flat. That's about as good as it gets.
My car is actually 4 cc's under the limit for the new congestion charge. Are they going? Do you think I'll be all right, or do you think they go, ooh, that's a bit close?
Yeah, but your car is about 20 years old. It belches enough smoke out the back to have its own weather system. He says, for a modern car manufacturer at a time of increasing global warming, to have only one vehicle out of their entire range compliant with the congestion charge is bizarre. That does seem strange. It's almost as though the company's got its fingers in its ears and is humming to try and drown out the noise of people shouting, "Save the planet." Under the plans, which include a 100% discount for cleaner, small-engine cars, the congestion charge will rise from £8 to £25 for vehicles that emit more than 225 grams of CO2 per kilometre. This not only covers many 4x4s and limousines, but also some family cars, sports cars and people carriers. Basically, anything that's fun is going to fall foul of it. It's a no-fun law. Congestion charge zone residents with bigger cars will also lose their discount. Now, that bit makes sense. It's the bit where the smaller cars can come in free that makes no sense at all, and does make you question the justification for the entire thing in the first place. Crystal Palace, hello, John.
Oh, hi.
John.
How are you?
Good, thanks.
It's about this car parking business with the clamp. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Oh, right. Yeah, a friend of mine did have a similar sort of problem, and what he did was, when they got confronted with the car park clampers, he spent about 10 minutes over his allotted time in this particular car park. It was like one of these Currys, B&Q, one.
Oh, yeah, right.
And anyway, he's come out, found the car clamped, and he walked up and they said, "What's the problem? Why is this clamped?" And they told him, "You're 20 minutes over." Oh, so he said, "Well, how much is this going to cost me?" I think £150 or something like that.
Yeah.
He said, "Oh, look," I said, then I'll have to go away and think about this." So, anyway,
What?
yeah. In the meantime, he spotted a friend of his, and who lives just on the road. He said, he walked over to him and said, "Could you do me a favour? You run me home." So he told him the situation, and they went home. And when he got there, he's got a clamp which he uses for his caravan and his drive.
Yeah.
And he went back to the car park and he said to him, "Look, what I want you to do," he said, with his wife, he said, "I want you to just give him a bit of a diversion," he said, "so I can get this clamp on." So, anyway, he clamped their van. And he said, "Excuse me," he said, "I'm the guy whose car over there is clamped." He said, "I've got a proposition to make." So, you can see where this is going, can't you?
Yeah, he made them an offer they couldn't refuse.
He said, "I'll unclamp your van and you unclamp my car." They turn around and see their van clamp.
Yeah, I used to play a game like that at school, yeah.
You can't do this. And they said, "Well, I think I can. We'll call the police." So the police turn up. They call the police, you see.
Yeah.
The police turn up, but they don't want to know. It's private. They're not bothered. He said, "You sort it out amongst yourselves." So, anyway.
We're running out of time here.
Yeah, well, he said, you unclamp me and I'll unclamp you. Anyway, eventually they did. But he wanted the van wanted theirs unclamped first. So,
well, that's only fair, isn't it? You show me yours first, and then I'll show you mine.
Eventually they unclamped his.
John, I've got to go. I'm afraid we'll imagine what the rest of that story is. Beautiful as I'm sure it must be. This is LBC.
L60.
LBC, it's 8:30.
Well, the whole world's gone crazy.
The old bag's right. 0845 6060 973. Nick back on tomorrow. He's going to be talking about London, mate. Where would you place London on an international monopoly board? Leicester Square or maybe the Old Kent Road? I think it would be Mayfair. Mayfair's still the most expensive. Used to be £400. Oh, so long since I played Monopoly. Ages and ages and ages. I remember it being a really fascinating game.
Boring!
It just went on so long. Oh, man, that's a tedious game. There's an email that's going around at the moment about the Liverpool City of Culture, which is hilarious. And it's a lot of pictures that represent... it's just a joke. If you're listening in Liverpool, it's just a joke, okay? We love you. In London, specifically. But one of these pictures that's been doctored to represent the city of Liverpool is the Liverpool Monopoly board. Every square is the same, and they all say, go to jail. Made me laugh out loud. Just a joke. So, also on tomorrow's show with Nick, can we really cope with more post office closures? Is the leap to a £25 congestion charge for high-polluting cars just a tax on the rich? And you couldn't make this up. We hear from the man preparing to skydive 120,000 feet, which doesn't... It's one of those sort of vague numbers that you can't put into context. 120,000 feet. Do you know how far that is? That's 24 miles.
What?
24 miles. This guy's going to free fall. He's off his head. Also, how teachers need to cope with angry parents. Join Nick as he tackles the stories of the day from 7 a.m. tomorrow. Here's a call on the M25. Hello, Stephen.
Hey, Nick, how you doing?
Good, thanks.
I wanted to ask about this thing for the 4x4s and stuff. Is that not a pollution tax rather than a congestion charge increase?
Yes.
And is he not allowed... He's not allowed to create taxes. He's not in government.
But what about the congestion charge in the first place?
Well, that's a charge, isn't it? That's a fee to go into the city. But he's charging people because of the pollution, which is a pollution. That's a tax as opposed to a charge. I heard it somewhere that someone was going to challenge it because it's an illegal move from his office.
Well, this is presumably what Porsche are considering doing.
Well, it is ironic that they're doing it and not someone like, from Boris's or the other guy's party or something. I don't know. It's just... One thing for sure is that Ken Livingstone has got to go. He's just totally lost the plot with what his role is.
All right. Thanks very much, Stephen.
Okay, then.
Cheers, mate. Ta-da. It's funny, people just don't call up and praise Ken Livingstone, which is bizarre because so many people have voted for him in the past. It's like one of these things that you don't want to admit to, which I don't really understand because, the man is obviously immensely popular, having been running London virtually single-handedly for as long as anyone can remember. He keeps getting voted in time and time again, but nobody says that they vote for him. Maybe it's just the nature of people that listen to this station. Nobody who votes for Ken Livingstone is actually a listener to LBC. Can that be possible? Because I can barely remember anybody calling in and saying anything good about him. Does anybody want to say anything good about Ken Livingstone? Let's have a little bit of balance here, because I can't remember the last time I took a positive call about Ken Livingstone. The general mood seems to be, oh, God, blimey, he's a blooming disaster, get rid of him. It's along those lines, isn't it? I've made my mind up. Or rather, I did make my mind up a couple of days ago about who I was going to vote for in the mayoral elections. And, as usual, the person that I had decided to vote for then opened their big mouths and then they said something stupid. And I thought, oh, right, back to the drawing board. I don't like any of them that much. Not enough, not completely, and 100%. I couldn't back any of them totally from what they've said. I can pick and choose. Like the way people pick and choose bits from the Bible to suit their own prejudices. That kind of thing. So I could take a conglomeration of each individual person and make another set of policies from garnered from little bits of what each individual says, but not go wholeheartedly with one person. I'm thinking still of voting for none of the above, or putting my name in there. I'm going to make myself... I'll vote for you, Raj. You don't say anything that annoys me. You can't make a cup of tea to save your life, but at least you don't say anything annoying. Here is Banstead. Hi, Charlotte.
Hello, Nick.
Charlotte.
You're moaning.
Who, me? I never complain.
Oh, you do? Always. I just wanted to talk about the Brits tomorrow night.
The Brits, yes. We're going to be getting a live
I'm looking forward
update,
to that.
mate.
Amy Whitehouse is supposed to be singing, isn't she?
Is she?
Winehouse, yes. I was going to talk about Paul McCartney.
Yes.
And his award. I've never liked any of the Beatles records.
Oh, come on.
No, I don't like
How can you not like any of the Beatles
No, I don't
records?
like them.
Oh,
I
that's a
liked
silly thing to
Imagine with John Lennon.
Right.
And I like George Harrison.
Yeah, imagine a world without possessions, said John Lennon, the man with £100 million in the bank. Yeah, easy for him to say.
I liked him and liked George Harrison.
Right.
But the Beatles as a group, I thought they were rubbish.
Oh, they were rubbish, yeah, you're right.
Absolutely rubbish. I do,
They made a lot of rubbish. I mean, people think that they were that everything they touched was tinged with genius. It wasn't. There was a lot of tripe that they produced, but speaking as someone who never listens to their music, they did. They were. I was going to say responsible, but that's probably not the right word. They didn't invent, but they popularised what you could describe as modern music.
Right. Did you like any of their records? Did you like the records?
Well, as I say, I never listened to any of their music by choice at home. In fact, I don't think I've ever sat down and listened to a whole album.
No.
But it's hard not to. I think it'd be difficult for anyone on earth to say they don't like the Beatles. You can't dismiss their entire canon, Charlotte. That's a silly thing to say.
I heard Alex say his girlfriend didn't like the Beatles.
Right.
He told me. But I heard Paul McCartney on the radio, and he sounded so old. He sounded so old.
Well, he is.
Yeah.
What is he, like 85 now?
85. Right, but I was going to say, no, John Lennon I thought was good, and George Harrison is on their own. And also, some of the Wings stuff wasn't too bad when he was doing Wings.
Yeah, well, the first Wings album, was it the first one? Or Band on the Run, whichever was, whether it was first or not. Band on the Run was a very good album. Not that I've heard that in 20 years either.
No.
Dark Horse, George Harrison, is an absolutely fantastic track and a pretty good album.
Yes.
Instant Karma by John Lennon is great.
Yes.
Ringo Starr, can't think of anything. He worked with Joe Walsh for a bit. That's as good as I can say. But, of all of them, I'd most like to hang out with Ringo.
Would you?
Because, the drummers are crazy, so...
Yeah, I thought George Harrison and John Lennon were the best.
Yeah, a little too hippie-ish for me.
No, I like them. Yeah,
Anyone who wears a caftan, without being sarcastic about it...
Well, I wonder how...
Unless they're Demis Roussos himself, has got to go.
Groovy.
I wonder how he gets on tomorrow at the awards, Paul McCartney.
Oh, I'm sure he'll be smiling and have his thumbs up, and everything will be great.
Yeah, I wonder what the Osbournes will be like.
Well, yeah, naked apparently. We'll find out, eh? Thanks very much, Charlotte. We'll be getting live updates from the Brits tomorrow. Isn't that right, Raj? You're organising that, correct? Why are you looking at me surprised?
I'll get on that.
I'll go down with my phone if you like.
Aren't we doing this? Don't you know about this?
I didn't, but I can organise it.
You don't know about this?
I can organise it.
Are you being serious with me?
Yeah.
You didn't know that we were going to get live updates from the Brits tomorrow? You thought I was kidding?
No, I knew. Of course I know.
Of course you do. Yeah, you're right. On top of it. I should just sit here and relax because you have everything in control, right?
Of course.
Westminster. Hello, Tony.
Hello.
Tony.
Yes, hello there.
How are you?
Very well, thank you. I think Ken has got it spot on right. The whole of London was grinding to a halt. You can just remember what it was like prior to the congestion charge, and driving a licensed London cab, I've seen improvements all over London.
Yeah, I'm sure. But you'd have to say that allowing people with small cars to come in for free will mean that we'll go back to how it used to be, if not worse.
Well, I think, Kenny's got a lot of advisors, a lot of experts on the job, and I just can't take this anti-Ken Livingstone every time you pick up the Evening Standard. I think it's dreadful. But all I can say is, driving a London cab for many years now, I've seen improvements. I mean, the whole of London was grinding to a halt, and I think a lot of these London licensed cab drivers have very short memories where they were going out doing night shifts because they couldn't cope with the traffic in the daytime.
Yeah, I've heard a lot of cabbies say just that, yeah.
And so, at the end of the day, circulation, newspapers, we've got to come up with a story. Can't say anything nice, got to come up with something negative. I think he's spot on right, he's got it right, and I think he's going to win the next election with hands down. As for the other, candidates, I think it really is going to be a waste of time. I mean, London is a great city. Let's clean it up. You know, it's pretty badly polluted, and I think Ken is the right man for the job, and he's got the qualifications to get us there.
Thanks very much, Tony. A Ken supporter, you ask for one, and one comes in. However, having said all that, which may or may not be true, I would have to contest that giving people with, and these aren't very small engines, I mean, I'm not talking about 50cc, I'm not talking about electric cars anymore, which does make sense. Electric cars don't pollute at all, apart from, of course, the pollution that's involved in, did you stay up late last night? He was trying to smother a yawn. He's just looking right at me and opening his mouth.
Can you point out that's Raj, not me? Please?
Yeah, that is Raj, yeah.
Not that I'm, grassing him up or anything.
Not that, I'm concerned about that at all, but when I'm rattling away on the air, and the bloke that's working on my show is looking at me right in the face and yawning.
But what does it say about you?
I mean, that's quite... is that rude?
Be polite!
Be polite.
Do you know what?
Put your hand up for a start.
Do you know what I've noticed? A lot of these smaller cars... they are just runabouts, so they're not maintained. People just buy them and rag them.
Yes, quite possibly, but it's irrelevant. These small cars take up as much... one of those little cars takes up, effectively, as much space on the road as a Rolls-Royce. You couldn't squeeze two of the cars to one roller, right? I mean, if it's sitting in a traffic jam, it's about the same, more or less. They also produce more or less the same amount of pollution. Two of those little cars will produce the same amount of pollution, say, as one roller. So how many people have got a roller or, a car with a 4, 5, 6 litre engine? Not many. Taking them off the road and putting hundreds of thousands of little ones belching out smoke at the back doesn't make any sense. That's just... it's not that it doesn't make any sense. It's actually crazy. So it does seem as though this was some sort of policy. Either they haven't thought it through, and that cab driver was right. You'd think that he's got people, advisors, and people to talk stuff like this through. He didn't just think it up and say it. So it doesn't make sense as a policy to reduce carbon emissions, because it's almost certain to increase them. So why did he do it? And the next logical explanation is to garner votes with the people who don't drive Rolls-Royces. If you can think of another one, then let me know. It's 8:46. LBC Travel with Will Gowing.
Thanks very much.
Everything is going extremely well.
You bet your life it is. And Clive was right when he was talking on that little advert there about cycle lanes. Where's he going to produce these new cycle lanes from? Everything that Clive said was absolutely correct. They don't give these shows out to chumps, Here's call in the West End. Hello, Stephen.
Hello, good evening, Nick.
How you going?
I'm doing fine. Just sitting in a terrible traffic jam on Knightsbridge.
Yep.
Decided life going smoothly.
Right.
Now, one thing I wanted to say. I heard jingle about Nick Ferrari talking about Polish people leaving the island. Yeah.
Yeah.
And just drop a couple sentences on the subject, because I'm mini cab driver, one of the many Polish people who came here and work, making my living here, and I actually brought my family in for longer. But talking with my colleagues from my profession, lots of them actually saying that yes, they just planning to stay here maybe a couple years, 2, 3, and actually head back to the country. And
right, this is Polish people coming over here, and regardless of what they were skilled at in Poland, they're driving a cab at the moment, and you're just asking them whether they're going to stick around.
Yeah, but some people they actually planning to leave. They're not coming here for a long time.
Yeah.
And I read actually interesting article on there is like a Polish website called My Island. A running translation, of course, and there are different articles every day, and one was that Poles actually are going to other European countries, where even going out from but that there are actually some people who are gonna be staying for longer. So I think it's gonna be kind of balanced, And I read interesting thing also, talking about Ken Livingstone in elections. I don't know where they got this idea from, but they estimated that Ken Livingstone might have a problem because lots of, for example, Eastern European, mostly speaking about Polish, might be voting for his opponent.
Why?
Well, actually, I don't know exactly why, and it wasn't really clearly said in a.
They just like the cut of their jib. They just like them on TV, it's the same reason anybody else votes for a politician. We just think, oh, he's a nice man, I'll vote for him. Yeah. So, is it true that a lot of your compatriots have decided to up sticks and leave?
Yeah. Actually, I had already, I knew some friends that were working here shortly, they were doing quite good money, driving as chauffeurs,
Yeah.
And the guy said, for example, I just made my quota, I'm coming back, nothing keeps me here, and I'm going back. And
So is that a common experience with the people that have come over from Poland? They had it in their mind that they were going to come over and make a certain amount of money.
Yes.
And stick around until they'd done that, and then once they'd achieved their goal, then they were going to go back to the homeland.
It is very common. It is very common, and some people they just leave because either they are disappointed with the expectations, whereas they
So they got here and all they found was London. Yeah, I know, it must have been really upsetting.
Another thing is you don't talk about it too much in the media, but there in some parts of UK you have for example. It comes even to racist attacks against Polish people, and there were actually a few court cases recently and different situations,
Yeah.
So
what, British people being racist? Poor, I find that hard to believe, mate.
I know, it's very hard to believe. You're such a great country,
So what is it you miss about Poland the most? There must be something.
Myself?
You miss yourself?
No, what I'm missing, yes? You're asking, yes?
Yes.
Sorry, I didn't get it.
Yeah.
Well, I'm just thinking about it,
The food? No, not the food.
No, I can buy it now here almost in a shop. I can go to nearest Tesco or Sainsbury and get Polish products,
But seriously though, Polish food, what's that like? I can't think that there's any Polish restaurants in the town. Is your national food something to cross the street for?
Well, there are some nice dishes, like you can have. What can I name for you, Okay, bigos is the one, very, very popular. It's like you want a recipe?
Bigos?
Bigos.
Spell it.
Bigos.
Bigos?
Yeah.
And
sauerkraut with...
sauerkraut, ooh, shukrut.
Boiled with spices, and you serve it with potatoes. Add to it mushroom, a little bit of sausage and here and there.
Right. You're not really selling this to us. Boiled cabbage.
Well, it's sauerkraut, actually.
Well, cabbage. That's sauerkraut's cabbage.
I tell you something. I hate cabbage when it's being boiled, but when it prepared because it's very nice.
Yeah. Well, it's they eat more or less the same thing in Germany, don't they? Schukrut, they call it, and
something like that.
Yeah, very yummy. It also turns your stomach over because it's very acidic.
But also, for example, cakes, and different pastry products, they are incredibly sweet.
Yeah.
And if you would, for example, go to Poland and then try some things, like in one of the little shops, it's actually a little much, maybe less sweet than it is in UK. But people shouldn't worry about lots of millions of Polish people staying because they're going to be actually going. And actually,
I don't think people are. I don't think generally people are worried about Polish people staying. I think I speak on behalf of the building industry when I say please don't go.
Yeah, actually, there was a funny article in Polish newspapers some time ago that in Poland we had a problem because the Polish builders are going to be building the Olympic stadiums and there's shortage in Poland.
Well, that's right. Isn't it true that that Poland has actually experienced a shortage of skilled labour because they've all left?
Yes, like the doctors are leaving, teachers are leaving. Actually, I read another article about Polish teachers coming here to UK to try talents here, which one thing is sometimes, a little bit difficult for them is the language barrier, because not all of them speaking fluent English.
Yeah, well, me either.
Well, you speak better than I, but they're trying to. I live in High Wycombe, and even in my daughter's school, there is one Polish teacher for that matter. So,
Huh.
yeah, it was interesting.
Okay, so you're going to be leaving sometime yourself?
I'm sorry?
Are you going to be leaving? Are you going to be waving us goodbye sometime?
I'm going to stay here. I'm going to stay for longer because we adapted. We like it. My kids fitting into the schools and everything like that. But maybe one day go to Australia because it's nice and warm.
Oh, yeah, warm, that's right. Yeah.
There's no congestion charge,
No, you can park anywhere and the food's great.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, well, listen, best of luck, Stephen, okay. And if you ever want to try a British delicacy, try brains faggots. Oh
no,
they are... No?
No.
That's the point that you'll draw the line. All right, thanks very much, mate. This is LBC, 97.3. Choucroute, eh? Have you ever had sauerkraut?
I don't really eat that much vegetables.
Well, it's not really a vegetable. I mean, they doctor it so much that it's almost indistinguishable from something that you used to grow in the ground. The Germans eat it a lot in Bavaria and Black Forest, places like that. You buy a plate. You have a plate of choucroute, and you virtually need crampons to get to the top of this mound of cabbage that they serve it with the great big schnitzels. Schnitzels, is that a sausage or is that something else?
It might be a sausage.
Right.
I don't know.
Huge, great Bavarian sausage sticking out of a pile of cabbage. Doesn't that sound yummy?
I'll put it on my list of places to go.
Yeah, definitely, yeah.
You know that bloke you mentioned earlier who's going to skydive from 20...
It was 120,000 feet, which doesn't sound that much until you realise that is 24 miles. Isn't that incredible?
Isn't that in space?
Yes, exactly right, yes. He'll actually be coming in from space. He'll be a giant fireball blasting across the sky. This is LBC 97.3.
London's biggest conversation.
Right, so what are we doing?
Carol, we're ripping the press apart. Britney Spears. Why are all those paparazzis hanging out around Britney Spears' place? The reason is because she's losing her mind, and they want to get a picture of her in the process of going loopy, dealing out some justice to an inanimate object. You know, that's what they're after. Why? Because we want to see it. It's our fault. It is our fault. It's our fault that we want to see pictures of mentally disturbed people acting out in public. It's our fault that we want to see pictures of celebrities taken down a peg or two by having them plastered all over the glossy magazines looking dreadful, with a circle around their orange peel thighs and a big arrow pointing at it. Look how dreadful this person looks. It's our fault that we want to see pictures of people that we haven't seen in 10 years, to compare and contrast what they look like now to what they looked like last time we saw them, with a big caption that says, don't they look old? It's all our fault. And yet we blame, it's the paparazzi, it's nothing to do with us. Blooming well is. They wouldn't be there if we weren't interested. Isn't that right, Alex?
Correct.
Thank you very much. Lovely cup of tea.
Disgusting.
Appalling. How can anyone get tea so wrong, really? I mean, why do I even ask? I'm sure the two of you are doing this as a joke.
I want to see at least half of that gone tonight.
Let's have Elton. Hello, Phil.
Hi, Nick.
Phil.
Yeah, the Schadenfreude is what you just described again, isn't it?
What? Good pleasure in other people's misfortune?
The same with the Sun showing pictures of the Hoff when he's totally out of his head. You know,
yeah, all of that stuff. You can't blame the Sun. They're only doing it... Everything that's in the newspapers is there for a purpose, and that purpose is to make money. If we weren't interested, they wouldn't print it anymore. It's us.
Exactly, supply and demand.
Correct.
But simple as that. Yeah, what's funny about... Have you seen Ashes to Ashes at all on the TV?
What's that?
A new drama series.
The thing that used to be in the 70s and now it's in the 80s?
Yeah.
Yeah, no. I don't like the central character. I thought that of all the characters in the 70s one, that Philip Glenister character was the one I liked the least, and also believed the least. I just didn't believe... Maybe he's a great actor, it's just not his part, for me. But it just seemed totally fake.
Just, facade and...
Well, all of that, gruff, you're... Like John Thor, who was a very terribly well-spoken actor, he could do the Sweeney, your Nick, mate, all of that stuff, but it just didn't come out right from Philip Glenister. What does he talk like in real life?
I've no idea, to me.
Right. I wouldn't be surprised if he was also very posh.
Yeah.
Because I just don't believe his character, so I'm not interested in watching the show, no.
But the thing I was going to say, Nick...
Yeah. Also, by the way, before you go on to what you're saying, the 70s was a great era of design and music. The 80s was the decade that style forgot. Name me one thing that came through in the 80s, either musical or otherwise, that was worth having. The 80s was rubbish.
Duran Duran, wasn't that?
So I rest my face.
I love all that sort of pop, to be honest.
No, the 70s had everything. The 70s started with the back end of the hippy-drippy thing, and then they went into the supergroups, Bad Company and Led Zeppelin and Pink Floyd and, the whole bit. And then that segged from becoming a very... at the start of the decade, a very inspirational and experimental era into becoming just a giant worldwide success, and then becoming a bit bloated and fat, and then this blast of cold air or hot air, more accurately, from the punk movement blew all that away. Meanwhile, on another plane, disco was happening throughout the entire decade. The R&B and funk movement was in rude health, and that continued. And then towards the 80s, in comes house. It had the lot. The 80s, on the other hand, it was... I can't think of anything good about it. Yes?
I was too young, really. I was born in 74.
Right.
So I was sort of, I wasn't really coming online with fashion or whatever.
No.
I was sort of late 80s.
No, you were still being taken down the barbers by your mum.
Every fourth Saturday.
Yeah. Did you ever have to sit on that plank of wood that they put between the armrests to raise you up? Yeah. How embarrassing.
Yeah. And the old bloke used to do it. He used to ask me when I was about 14, would you like something for the weekend, sir? I never knew.
Well, that's Eltham for you, isn't it, Phil?
Well, Nick.
Yeah.
With the, you don't have to have seen it, obviously, but it's quite rare for a film to put me into a really sort of odd mood.
Odd? Define odd.
I wouldn't say depressed, but just...
Melancholic.
Yeah.
Melancholy is my favourite mood, I think.
Where I feel a bit sad about watching it.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know what I mean?
But sad in what way?
My heart is.
Sad that you're wasting your time watching it, or that you're pining for the good old days?
Pining for the good old days, but I just found what the lead protagonist, i.e. the detective...
Philip Glenister.
Yeah, what he was doing was, I found to be ruthless, and...
Right. He was just trying to finger some perps.
Yeah, but he was... But the perps were doing it for a sort of cause, as it were. But he was just
right.
ruthless.
What were they, freedom fighters?
Yeah, in effect, yeah. Basically, the Docklands was being redeveloped.
Oh, yeah.
Community was being broken up.
Yeah, wouldn't you like to have had a piece of that?
Oh, God, I think,
a piece of old derelict land in the Docklands. That would be £20 million, please.
Well, you'd be laughing now.
Yeah, I would be laughing.
But
you'd have to hospitalise me. I'd be laughing so much.
But I don't know if anyone technical knows about this. But like a lot of the camera shots are very wide angle and low down, pointing up.
Yeah.
Like
a hip hop video. Yo.
But smoother, like looking at the ceiling a lot, and everything seems grey. It's so hard to explain, but it put me in such a strange mood. A bit like watching Clockwork Orange.
I've tried to watch Clockwork Orange several times, and I never get to the end of it. I can't stand that film. Stanley Kubrick is a rare genius of the cinema, but that film is unwatchable.
Not even a bit intense, mate. Didn't you just find it totally surreal, Nick?
Yeah, it is. It was surreal. Yeah.
Well, sorry, do you find it too disturbing, or you just...
I just found it a bit like, oh, I can't be bothered with this anymore. That's always the feeling I get about sort of 20, 30 minutes in. I was like, oh, I can't be bothered with this anymore.
That's strange, yeah. I find it pretty unpleasant.
Mind you, I can watch, some of the Stanley Kubrick movies, I can watch Full Metal Jacket again and again and again. It just never gets old.
And that was filmed...
In the Docklands, yeah. R. Lee Emery, one of the greatest performances in... I think it's R. Lee Emery, that's his name. It's something like that. The Sergeant Major. One of the greatest performances in cinema history. And he only ever did that character because he was that person. He was an actual Sergeant Major. You know the movie I'm talking about there, Raj? Full Metal Jacket?
Is that one, there's a scene where when the soldier gets the gun and he's ready to shoot himself in the bathroom or something?
Well, don't tell us.
Oh, sorry.
Oh, poor Raj, we're sticking on there.
That's also a Love You Long Time, isn't it?
Yeah, that's right. That's where that comes from, yeah.
But the
$5. Pardon?
When that guy is crawling along in slow motion in the Docklands, especially, not in the Docklands, getting bits shot out of his body.
Yes.
That's just awful, it was
I know.
pretty awful.
Yeah, you could be talking about last weekend at the Docklands as well.
But it just showed the cold brutality of war, I think.
War, yeah. War is stupid. I think no less an international statesman than Boy George said that.
Right. But,
Phil, thanks very much.
Cheers, Nick.
Ta-da. 0845 6060 973. Kentish Town. Hey, Pat.
Hi, Nick.
Pat.
Hey, yeah, you just said nothing good came out of the 80s.
Yeah.
I beg to differ.
Go on, then.
Megadeth, Slayer, Metallica, Iron Maiden, Queensryche, Manowar.
Right,
You must
yes.
know them bands.
I suppose so, yeah. Mind you...
All the best heavy metal came out of the 80s, didn't it?
Now, was it made in the 80s, or did they originate in the 80s and actually make the good stuff in the 90s?
Oh, no, in the 80s.
Really? Well,
Yeah,
Metallica...
Iron Maiden started off in the 70s, I suppose.
Yeah, but, well, I suppose you're a purist, then. You like Metallica pre the Black Album.
Yeah. Hey, how'd you know that?
Well, because only hippies like the Black Album. That would be me, then.
Oh, very good. Yeah, and I also love Ken.
You love what?
He's brilliant. Ken Livingstone.
Oh, Ken.
Yeah.
Right.
I think that politicians spout on, and they never actually do anything, but Ken Livingstone, he takes the bull by the horns and gets things done. And I mean, not a lot of people like what he does, but I think he does a good job.
Well, you'd have to say that is absolutely true. He does make a lot of decisions that are potentially very unpopular. Yes, and that is a rare quality in a politician, because they're always looking for, no matter what the issue is, unless, of course, they will benefit personally, they want to make the decision that they think would gain most approval from us lot, whereas Ken doesn't really seem to care one way or the other.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
And anyone who can call the American ambassador a chiseling little rat is...
Yeah. Well, yeah, and I think that's not so great. I mean, upsetting America, that's not very bright, really, is it?
I think it's brilliant.
Well, okay. Thanks very much, Pat. Cheers. 0845 6060 973. A chiselling little crook is what he called him. The American ambassador to London. He doesn't mince his words. 9:15. LBC Travel with Will Gowing.
Thanks a lot, Nick. Well, tonight, still problems on the...
Rock and roll!
Hey, you ever feel like you're not achieving quite as much from life as you could be? Oh, yes. LBC offers you the opportunity to change your direction with One Life Live 2008. Takes place at Olympia from the 29th of February to the 2nd of March. An unmissable event for all of those who dream about doing something different with their lives, whether it's taking a grown-up gap year, becoming your own boss, retraining for a new career, or simply achieving a better work-life balance? I'm still waiting for my life to start. How about you? So what are you waiting for? To get your tickets to go to the website? To get your ticket... Start again. What are you waiting for? To get your tickets, go to our website, lbc.co.uk. It's the event for people who know we only have one life and want to live it. I do, actually, sometimes, for the longest part of my life, I did feel as though, I can't wait till my life starts. I'll just sit here twiddling my thumbs until it starts. And meanwhile, it was charging ahead. I had no idea. I still do feel something like a close approximation to that now. And I'm, by any measure, at least halfway through. I'm sure I'm not the only one. If you'd like to get tickets for this, let me give you the website again. It's lbc.co.uk. And it's One Life Live at Olympia from the 29th of February to the 2nd of March. Heathrow, Ange.
Ah, St. Nick.
Ange. Good, thanks.
Good.
Do you hear about the guy who lived at Gatwick?
No, what did he do?
Well, I didn't cut this out, but, in much the same way as the film that just recently came out with Tom Hanks, where he lived at an airport. Terminal, I think it was called.
Oh, yeah, I watched that the other day. It was on the Freeview. It was really interesting.
There's apparently a chap who lived at Gatwick exactly the same. I don't think I don't think he was caught between sort of
flights.
Yeah, but he just lived at Gatwick for about 4 years.
So he wasn't terminal then.
No.
Nick, always great to listen to you. Polish and the builders.
Yeah.
Migrating back.
Right.
Heard loads about it over the last 2 weeks on LBC, in the papers, everywhere on the media.
Yeah.
And I was just thinking, listening to everybody, back in the 80s, when, and especially the 90s as well, when Germany was booming and they were doing a lot of construction, and loads of British brick builders went over to Germany because there was a glut of builders over there, construction workers.
Really?
Did
a glut?
Yeah, there's a shortage. Sorry,
right.
No, not glut. Sorry, shortage.
Yeah.
Apologies. There's a huge shortage of construction workers in Germany.
Really?
And in the 80s and 90s, when all the British were over there taking advantage of it, did they complain that they were over there taking other people's jobs or taking advantage of it?
Yeah, they say, I'm over here taking your jobs.
Yeah. I mean, economies go in swings and roundabouts, and everything comes back on yourself anyway.
Yeah.
But I really can't understand why everyone's nitpicking, basically, about it.
It's just something to whine about. It's just some other group, like an amorphous group of people, to pin your problems on. Someone to blame for your misfortune.
See, I'm not like that. I'm so the opposite. I look in the mirror first before I moan.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, you want to get yourself out of this country, mate, because you don't fit in here.
I know. Listen, the reason I was calling you and wanted to ask you was about the mayoral election. I don't really understand it.
Okay, let's see if I can help.
Something Brian Paddock said the other day to Nick. He said about he could win it on the second preference vote. And I've analysed it, and I don't understand how. Because if there's no clear winner, i.e. somebody who gets 50% of the vote minimum on the first preference, it goes to the second preference.
Right.
But I was looking at the last two elections, and to both Ken and Norris, what's his name? Not McWhirter, Stephen Norris.
Yeah.
Were the top two in the first preference.
Right.
And then it's the top two who go through to the second round.
Yeah.
And then out of the two of them, whoever gets the most votes in second preference becomes the winner. So Lib Dems came third or fourth, I believe, if I'm not wrong.
Right.
So I don't understand how the Lib Dems could win it unless there was a huge swing in favour towards the Lib Dems for this election.
Yes.
If it makes any sense.
Well, kind of. I didn't realise that that's the way that it went.
You can check it up on Wikipedia.
Oh, what, the fount of all accuracy and knowledge?
No, but it's got the results from the last two elections, 2000, 2000.
Really?
You can see that Ken and then Conservatives were first and second respectively. So they're the ones who go through to the second round.
Huh. Well, there's a recent poll conducted by the Sunday Times about who would you vote for in a general election tomorrow. And I know that they're not, you can't extrapolate from one to the other, but it gives you a vague idea.
I thought the polls couldn't vote in the general election tomorrow.
This was who would you vote for in a general election tomorrow. The Lib Dems, 16%. Quite close with others at 11%. I agree with almost everything that others say. I don't know about you. Labour, 32%. That's double the Lib Dems. And Conservatives, way out in the lead, 41%.
Poor souls, whoever said they would vote Conservative, in my opinion.
Well, that's getting on for half the country.
See, the problem is, you and I, we're from the same generation, and we remember the end of the demise of the Conservative Party in the 80s and 90s, the late 80s and early 90s.
Mm-hmm.
So we're kind of like, I would say, I know I can't speak for you, undecided if we would go back to vote for them. That's my opinion.
Well, I think that is the mood of the nation, really. We're a bit... It's almost like we're dipping our toe in the water. We're not sure whether we want to go back. I think there's also a sense that we're not sure whether we want to stay as we are. We don't know whether we want to go forward, and we don't know whether we want to stay still.
Well, I was going to add to that. We can't go forward, in my opinion, because I believe since Blair came in 97, that prior to him getting in, the country was given a sense of hope. And I believe that hope and those high expectations have been completely dashed and taken away from us in our British psyche. That whoever comes in, it's much the same. And
well, yes, I think you're absolutely right. And there was a sense of hope. There was a sense of like a brand new dawn. Things can literally only get better.
Ugh.
And it was almost, and it was almost as though we were experiencing a birth in this country. It was a tremendous feeling of elation on that day when Tony Blair got in, but. Of course, reality pokes its ugly head up, and you live with a politician for long enough, and you will come to despise them.
I think
it doesn't really matter who they are.
I think the reality of modern-day politics is such that whichever party comes into power, they cannot be dramatic or drastic in policies and changes which will upset the economy, because at the end of the day, as the phrase goes, it's the economy, stupid.
Yeah, but you know what? I don't believe that they have much control over the economy. I really don't. I think the economy is bigger than they are now.
You just said what I just said, but in a different way.
Oh, did I? I should pay more attention, eh? I think that the economy is like a tiger, and they're just holding onto the tail and hoping for the best.
Yeah, and if they try to control it, or put in place procedures which will control the people who actually drive the economy.
Yeah. Then they'll just up sticks and go somewhere else.
That's it, yeah. And I've seen that happen in other countries.
Well, this is what they're threatening at the moment with this whole non-DOMS thing. If you decide to tax us, we'll leave. Which is all right for the people that can, but us dopes in the middle who pay all the tax, we're stuck here.
Look, as long as 70%, this is what a very good colleague of mine says to me, as long as 70% of the nation are paying their taxes and are paying their fines, then the government's not going to worry and plough billions into the other 30%. Because 70% is enough for them to get their wages and to carry on greasing the cogs for the wheels to turn.
Well, you know what? Apparently it isn't, because we've borrowed £40 billion. If we were a family, we'd be turfed out of our house. It's true. Yeah. No bank would lend us any money, but we borrowed $40 billion, and still it goes up.
Yeah, we're borrowing $40 billion because we
spend it all on comics and sweets. No one has got any idea.
because we as a nation wanted more spent.
Yeah.
We don't know how to spend.
Well, that's true, yeah. We're addicted to credit.
But borrowing has always been there. You and I both know that. Since 79, borrowing has always been there. And it's going to be there because whenever...
Oh, and you know what? I'm really sorry, but we've come to the end of this conversation because here comes the news. But thanks very much for an interesting conversation. This is LBC.
London's biggest
It's 9:30.
Well, let's get back to it.
This Sunday Times article, by the way, was headlined with "Darling must go." They're talking about Alistair Darling. This was when they asked a number of people, 2,500 people, who they would vote for in the general election tomorrow. This must be one of the biggest leads the Conservatives have had in as long as anyone can remember. 41% to the Tories, to 32% to Labour. That's huge. They said, do you think your family's finances will improve or get worse in the next 12 months? 50% said get worse. Improves 12%. So everybody's thinking, we're doomed. And should Alistair Darling continue as Chancellor or be replaced? 44% said be replaced, which is really a daft question to ask the people in the street, because how do they know? I mean, on what basis are they saying that he should be replaced? By inside economic knowledge? By studying the figures and the facts at length? No, they just don't like him because he's got white hair and black eyebrows. He looks weird. It's true. Voters are blaming Alistair Darling for the deepening economic gloom and believe he should be sacked. A new poll for the Sunday Times has found. By 44% to 27%, respondents believe that the Chancellor should be replaced following his clumsy handling of the Northern Rock banking crisis and bad news on the economy. And you know what? It hasn't got anything to do with him at all. Guess whose fault it is? That's right. Nothing that Alistair Darling does hasn't been okayed or directly instructed by Gordon Brown. I mean, does anybody believe that that's not true? Gordon Brown isn't going to just let him get on with running an economy that Gordon Brown has micromanaged for the last 10 years. He's not going to give that baby up. Of course he isn't. Because Gordon Brown is nothing if not a numbers man. He's like giant machina. And, he doesn't do the sort of political, smiley, glad-handing thing that was Tony Blair's forte. He doesn't do any of that. He is he's like a backroom boy, really, Gordon Brown, which is why nobody really likes him, because these days politicians stand and fall by their performance on television. And Darth Vader is no good on TV. Great in high definition on the big screen where he's chopping people's heads off and blowing up planets just for the hell of it. But as somebody who you'd want to hold your baby, no. So this is why people don't like him, and I imagine it's kind of same reason that people don't like Alistair Darling, because the guy just looks weird. Because Tony Blair, you can say what you like about him. And the same can be said for Margaret Thatcher. She was also tremendous on television. Tremendous presence. Huge gravitas. Tony Blair could smile his way through anything. And Margaret Thatcher could sort of insistently push her message through whatever barrier was put in front of her. Like a human JCB she was. Darling must go. It's not his fault at all. He's just the mouthpiece with the waggly eyebrows. The poll shows that David Cameron, the Tory leader, and George Osborne, the Shadow Chancellor, have a 6-point lead over Gordon Brown and Darling when people were asked which team they trusted most to run the economy. Well, it's a silly thing to say. They're just guessing. So they don't trust them more. It's just that they dislike them less. It's not even a positive thing. It's a lack of a negative. They don't like, you see, I'm having to look at the piece of paper to remember what their names are. George Osborne. If you asked 100 people in the street who George Osborne was, or asked them to pick him out of a lineup, nobody would be able to. Who is he? No one has a clue. Almost nobody at all would be able to identify George Osborne, much less tell us with any certainty what his policies would be, or have any idea about his financial probity and fiscal excellence. We haven't got a clue. It's just that we haven't experienced much of him, so we dislike him less than the people that we have experienced. And all the problems that we're having at the moment, where we've got to blame someone, and we don't really know what subprime mortgages are, so we can vaguely blame the Americans. There's a certain element in this country that blame the Americans for everything anyway, despite the fact that we suck up American culture like it's... like it's going out of style, which it never will, of course, because the whole world wants it. They want jeans and burgers and movies and, all of that good stuff. So it's not their fault. And the attitude is, well, it ain't my fault. I ain't done nothing, so it's got to be somebody else's fault. Who have we heard of? Oh, yeah, Gordon Brown. Right, it's his then. And so we blame him. And that poor hapless Alistair Darling, who I'm absolutely convinced doesn't do a single thing that Gordon Brown doesn't tell him to do. I mean, is there any question about that?
Somebody pointed out that he looks like the eagle from the Muppets. And I looked up a clip on YouTube, just to remind myself, and it's true. He looks exactly like him.
Speaking of politicians and YouTube, I mentioned this yesterday. It really is worth seeking out. You won't have to look too far. I think it's got over 4.5 million hits. Is Barack Obama's speech. It's the Yes We Can speech, because that's his slogan, which is also another one of these nonsensical things. Doesn't mean anything at all. Yes, we can. And it's 3 sentences, not 3 words. It's yes, full stop, we, full stop, can, full stop, which makes it even more nonsensical than yes, we can. It's just silly. It's just catchy, and it's in the same sort of vein as Tony Blair making his maiden speech as Prime Minister as the sun comes up behind him and Dee Ream are playing over the sound system. It's the swelling of the heart, and you think, oh, yes, this is positive, I'll go with this. There's no substance there at all. It doesn't mean anything. But then, substance is the enemy of the modern-day politician. You just want to smother people in a thick layer of happy ooze. Isn't that right? And so that's kind of what Barack Obama does. I haven't got any idea what he stands for. None at all. But go to YouTube, and check out his Yes We Can speech. It's been put to hip-hop music. And it kind of looks like a Gap advert. It's all in black and white, and it's well shot, and so on, and they've got clips of other singers coming in. And it's basically the speech sung. Brilliant. That alone could put him into the White House. Isn't that right, Jill?
Yeah. I wanted to talk about Britney Spears. Well, also celebrity and the paparazzi. But before I just make my little point there, because you were talking about Northern Rock and the government, yeah. I'm really confused about that whole thing because, I think obviously it's this is to work politically in Labour's favour because weren't they against as the Tories, this new Labour, against any public ownership.
Yeah.
They're all for privatisation, so that
Right.
flies in the face of that.
Mm-hmm.
And why they haven't given it to the likes of Branson, I mean, and I think one of your callers rang in the other day and said, it's for the votes because the northern regions would lose so many jobs.
Well, yeah, quite possibly. But you also have to remember that Richard Branson wasn't doing it out of the goodness of his heart. He was doing it because he could see a giant profit in it.
Absolutely.
Well, as a taxpayer, I'd quite like that giant profit for us.
Well, thank you. If only I had the confidence that our government could, or any government, could make a giant profit from any business.
Well, you know what the Northern Rock needs right now is a lot of people to put their money in there. And coincidentally, having looked at their website today, it does seem that it could be the safest place to put your money in the world.
Why?
Because if you have money in a bank account in this country, or Iceland, or any of these other saving accounts that people put their money in, you are guaranteed the first £35,000. If the bank goes bust, An organisation, I don't even know who it is, but anyways, you're guaranteed to get back the first 35 grand. So don't put any more than 35 grand in any savings account anywhere, except the Northern Rock, which, if I've got this wrong, please correct me, I believe everything that you put in the Northern Rock is being guaranteed by the government. So you could have £1 million in there, and if it eventually went bust, they would pay you back £1 million. If you had £1 million in any other bank account and they went bust, you get 35 grand back, which would be a disappointing day.
Gosh. Well, how many people have got £1 million to put in their butt? Yeah, very interesting. But again, I think the motive behind a deal like that for savers is because of, political gain, to keep votes.
Well, you know what? I really expected them to go with Branson because the country seems to have taken Richard Branson to its heart because it's kind of bizarre that really. I think it's because he has a beard and wears jumpers. Because and
he smiles a lot.
Well, yeah. If he was a suit, I don't think that people would, the general public would like him as much. I mean, they seem to have
music.
they seem to. Well, yeah, but there's a lot of people who've had record labels, and the country isn't in love with them. But of all the,
he's the only one I remember. I mean, the others are all grey suits. He's never been a grey suit, has he?
Yeah, precisely my point.
But anyway, I'm digressed because I wanted to just mention about Britney Spears. I mean,
Britney Spears.
Again, hey?
Britney Spears, yeah.
Britney Spears. I feel naturally sorry for her because, all her pain is being aired so publicly, but, unfortunately that seems to be the price of celebrity, these days. But the way I see it, after hearing the news report about, what was it, £1 million for the paparazzi can get paid for one of her pictures?
Well, if they get a juicy
the
one...
more distressing, the better.
Well, absolutely. If they get a juicy picture, it can be 6 figures, not $1 million.
Right. Well, to me, that's a bit like, it's like the paparazzi, like the bounty in the Wild Wild West. And, it's like, I just pictured, after I heard that news report, a photograph of Britney Spears' head and shoulders with "wanted" across the top of it.
Well, yeah, but who wants them?
And then a price of £1 million.
Correct. But who wants them, Jill? It's not the paparazzi. They aren't going to stand out there in the cold and the rain all day just to get a picture because they want it. It's because we want it.
Yeah, I know, and I think it's absolutely sick. I mean, the poor woman, I don't know if you've heard of that film, what the hell's it called? Meet the Spartans. Which is a new film. Maybe your guys will have heard of it.
No.
Well, it's a sort of, it's a bit like, what was it, Scary Movie or whatever, those send-up films of the film 300. And they've got this clip of the poor woman holding her baby, and she's sitting in a barber's chair on the edge of the great big Spartan, 1,000-foot pit that they threw all their enemies into. And she's shaving her head and singing a song to her little baby. And then they end up pushing her into the pit.
Well, Jill, see, now you're laughing.
I know, because it's funny when you see it, but at the same time, it's really mean that, that...
Well, welcome to the human race, Jill. That's us, that is.
I know.
We disgust me, seriously.
We disgust me too, but we should try and rise above that. And anyway, all I'm saying is I just feel it's, we're reverting back to that sort of wild west.
Well, I think the animal in us is covered only by a thin veneer of sophistication and politeness. You rub away a little bit at us, and the animal will come out. I'll send you a picture of it in the post, Jill.
Yeah, dude.
Thanks a lot.
Except they're closing the post offices.
Oh, well, all right. I'll fax it over.
Thanks.
0845 6060 973 946. LBC Travel with Will Gowing.
Thanks a lot, Nick, and there are still long queues tonight on the...
We're running late!
Let's have a call in Welling. Hello, Peter.
Hi, Nick. How
Peter.
you doing?
Good, thanks.
Good. My thoughts on this congestion charge in Livingstone.
Right.
Wouldn't trust him as far as I could throw him. I think what he's going to do with this, he's going to get people to buy these little cars, and they're going to be driving in London. Then he's going to say, wow, there's too many of these. Surely we've made a mistake. I'll change my mind. I think I will charge them after all.
I think I believe he's already said something of that order, and I believe exactly what you have just said. I don't think there's any point in going out and buying a small car in order to avoid the congestion charge, because logic dictates that if it's free, people will use it, and so there'll be ever more of these cars. Congestion will get back up to where it used to be. Pollution will be even worse than it is now, because there'll be even more tiny little cars which don't, produce nothing. Perfume isn't coming out the back of them. It's just the same as a roller. And so he has already said that he reserves the right to slap a charge on as and when. And so the moment that it looks politically expedient, he will say, well, of course, it's been even more successful than we could possibly imagine, so we're going to have to restrict the access of those small cars as well, and you'll end up paying the £8 too.
Exactly.
I wish he'd just say it in the first place, because it doesn't make any sense, because what he's saying now doesn't make any sense.
Well, we just can't trust the guy. Cannot trust him 1 inch.
Thanks a lot, Peter. That's the unbalanced viewpoint. On the other hand, yes, you can. Or, on the other hand, you can't trust anybody else either. Yeah, I'm going to go with that. I don't think you can trust any of them. Have you made your mind up yet?
I might just not vote.
Well, see, that's awful. You might not vote. You're a ex-politics student, right?
Yep.
Well, that makes it even worse.
I didn't vote in the last general election whilst I was studying either.
That's terrible. How can you live with yourself?
I can't.
Really? Who do you live with?
Not myself anymore. I'll be back tomorrow.
Did you vote?
No.
But who are all these people?
Who are what? That are voting?
No, that aren't.
People like us.
Well, it's just dreadful. Weren't you ashamed and embarrassed?
Yeah, I think I was working. Was that a good excuse?
No, it isn't. We were working for 24 hours continuously.
Straight, yeah.
You were chained to the desk and they wouldn't let you out.
I was washing my hair for charity.
Yeah, right. This says the boy with no hair at all. Bald like a billiard cue. No, that's wrong, isn't it? A billiard ball. Billiard cue. Well, billiard cues don't have any hair on either, so I was right first time. 0845 6060 973. You want the bad news? The price of a pint is to smash £4 as food firms pass on costs to customers. You know what else is going up? Pizza!
Oh, no!
Oh, yes. The cost of a pint in the pub is likely to hit £4 in London, as British consumers faced a raft of bad news over food and drink prices. It's already over £4 in the pub near where I live. I choked on my complimentary peanuts when they gave me the bill. I couldn't believe it. That's 2 drinks for the best part of £10. And not like fancy drinks, just pints. Isn't that incredible? There's also bad news today for chocolate and pizza lovers. Oh, blimey, life's not worth living. Scottish and Newcastle, which makes Foster's and Kronenbourg, John Smith's bitter and Strongbow cider, wants to push through above-inflation price rises. This could be topped up with an increase in beer duty in the budget next month. Spokesman for the British Beer and Pub Association warned the average price of a pint is £3.20 in some areas of London. Really? There are areas and types of pub around the country where we will not be surprised to see the £4 pint. It's here already, mate. Meanwhile, Cadbury's indicated that they may have to increase prices by up to 6% to offset rising costs. It cited rising dairy prices, a higher cocoa price because of a failed crop in West Africa, and the effect of a boom in fair trade chocolate. Oh, come off it. I mean, that's... you can't blame... Cadbury's can't blame their current woes on fair trade chocolate. Nobody buys that stuff. That must have
far too expensive for me.
That must have about if it had 1% of the market, I'd be surprised. Fair trade chocolate. Do me a favour. No, well, the difference, Raj, is the rubbish that you buy, you just snarf down like it's like chocolate-covered... it's chocolate foam, basically. It's not chocolate at all. It's just It's brown foam. Ew.
I had
It's like they've skimmed off the top of the English Channel.
I bought some chocolate from the continent once, which they can't sell here because of its excessive cocoa level.
What? Domino's Pizza reported it had already been forced to put up prices because of a 50% rise in the cost of mozzarella. And pizza base dough has gone through the roof as well. Mozzarella cheese, they're going to stop making that now, aren't they? Isn't there like a giant shortage on because the moo cows have got sick or something? You know, the buffalo, Rome, where the I can't remember how it goes.
Antelope foam.
Yeah, that's right, the antelope foam. Yeah, in fact, that's probably what you were eating. Brown antelope foam. Are you aware of that?
I wasn't, but I'll check the label.
Yeah, you want to do that, yeah.
Fair trade, though.
I'm on about 3 pints of antelope foam a day now, man. Meanwhile, the price of bread has soared on the back of rising wheat prices, which in turn have been pushed up because more and more land is being used to produce biofuels rather than food. This is the great lie about biofuels. It's not going to save the planet. It's actually going to ruin it. Somebody called in the other day and said just exactly this. You know what they're cutting down to make biofuels? That's right, the Amazon rainforest. In much the same way as they're cutting down large swathes of it to make palm oil, which people use in their, I don't know where they use it, in the palm of their hands. Agricultural land prices are going up as companies and wealthy Londoners buy country estates. That's true too. You know, this is a great swizz that people with a lot of money, they'll go out and buy farming land. They don't have any intention of actually farming, but the land comes with grants from the EU. If you've got farming land, they will pay you money not to use it. Isn't that incredible? So people with, a giant stack of cash, they go out and buy a piece of land, and then the EU will pay them to do nothing on their own land. Brilliant. Which means that everybody's fighting, all the people who are earning giant bonuses in the city, they're all fighting for farming land, which means that the price of farming land has gone up so much that farmers can't afford it anymore. The only people that can afford farming land in this country are people who have no interest in farming. The whole world's gone crazy. The latest news on inflation comes weeks after most household energy suppliers announced tariff increases of at least 10%. Yeah, that's right. So food's gone up, beer's gone up, chocolate's gone up, but at least electricity is cheap. Oh! Now then, it's come to that moment where Raj is sitting on the edge of his seat, little expectant look on his shiny, happy face. It's your turn. What have we talked about today then, Raj?
We talked about eating the wrong food, cinema snacks, James Bond at the newsagents, drinking in public, one-man protests, eating in the cinema, eating fish and chips like Alex does, snakehead fish that could eat a person.
That's right. Be afraid.
Yeah, I am. Mineheads as pets, Kia Ora, Mr. Whippy ice cream.
Yes.
People are the problem, apparently.
Must go faster.
Oh, Empire Leicester Square, elastic bands, postage stamps, because the price is going up.
Yeah. Faster.
Royals in the cinema, biodegradable rubber bands, the gear...
Oh, no, you're rubbish at this. LBC.
Londoners who don't live in the Herne Hill